Two comments on that. One is, I was talking to a good friend yesterday about this politics issue, and democracy's struggling because democracy takes time. We've got to be committed. It's a messy process, and we're so busy that we don't find time for it. So your parents have found time for it, and they're a role model in that way. And secondly, my father, after my mom died, he lived alone for 18 years in a very large house, and he didn't want to leave it. He actually died in it, chose to die there, and did, turning off his defibrillator the day before and passing away 3 days later. And but he stayed young because he made sure he stayed connected with all generations of people. One reason he didn't want to go to a nursing home or a retirement is it was all old people. He says, I don't want to be around all old people. And I think it's one of the keys is not only do you need to stay connected, to use Linda's point, but you need to stay connected to all ages as well.
I'm Jackie Conan. I just want to speak to the busyness because, and I'm the director of a nature museum, and you wouldn't think that was so busy, but it is really busy. My life is horrible. It's just awful. And so I decided I needed to try to do something, and I started reading about how to make your life more simple. And I got in a group, and we talked about it, and we had a workbook. And the cover of that workbook was, to live simply is to live purposefully with a minimum of needless distractions. And I've used that a lot. And I must say, needless distractions, they're everywhere. You know, people send you an email and say, check out this website, which is great. Lots of good information on that website, but you know, there's another thing to do. It's mind-boggling. So that's really kind of where I'm at, is to try to figure out how to sort out the many incredible distractions there are in this world.
Well, that's why we have more adult ADHD adults today than ever, because there's so much impounding on us all. I mean, I think that it's very hard to keep yourself focused. And if you get involved politically, and then you see a need here, and then you see a need there, a family and computer and phone. Thank you. That was well taken from me.
Actually, can I just respond to that? Just in a very small way, you actually shifted my thinking a little bit, because yesterday I had the television on, and there was an advertisement that flew across the bottom for another TV show, and there were so many things going on in the corner. I was thinking, ew. And so, that is, now that I'm thinking about it, that is a total needless. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I'd like to speak to that a little bit about the media. When I stopped being a full-time journalist back in, I guess, 1990, and at that time you really could think a little bit. You would have a full-day news cycle, and you had a little bit of time to reflect, even though I said I don't like to reflect. But I'm told that now, at least in the AP where I work, and we're used to have to think in terms of 12-hour cycle, but certainly staying on top of things every minute. I'm told now that breaking stories are measured by how many seconds you beat the competition, and it seems to me that that's just not that's not a good way to get meaningful dialogue out there, and the impact I think we see in the political system, because everybody just gets the quick fix and the quick sound bites, and the prevalence of media outlets doesn't mean that there's a prevalence of diverse viewpoints. It seems to me that it means that there's one thought of the day that seems to get spread everywhere, and the noise of it just becomes magnified. So I'm not sure that in that sense that we're necessarily advancing thought and accomplishment, even though it's a great tool. But I think we need to learn to use it to think more carefully.
I have two other issues that I wanted to mention. One is with aging parents and their own health issues. I'm involved a bit in the transformation of healthcare in terms of quality and safety. There are over 200,000 people that die needlessly in hospitals because of human medical care errors. excited that there's awareness. But more importantly, I lost my dad a year ago. Day one, and being very involved in this, day one walked into his hospital, and when he first, the hospital room, when he was first near, within 60 seconds, I talked to the nurse about the medications that she was about to give him, and 2 of them he should not recommend. I mean, 60 seconds into this entire experience. And so, we need to look out for ourselves, and we need to look out for our parents in terms of the quality of their medical care. It is not fixed, it's way broken. So our awareness about the kinds of medications and the kinds of services and who's taking care of what, who makes decisions about what. So patient advocacy is a very, very real issue that we need to be aware of. And it's not getting any better at this point, at least there's something in the second. So that was one thing. The other thing that I've been involved in Canada, a little bit in the States, but mostly in Canada, that with the Canadian Park Service, they are profoundly traumatized because there are no generations, there are no people coming beyond our generation interested in preserving, conserving, and caring for the natural historic sites, for our parks and our open spaces. And it's similar in the United States. Somehow, because of technology, our kids have not spent any time outdoors and don't care about it and don't care about the future. And I was on my way to to do business in Canada with the Park Service there, the Canadian Park Service, and I happened to turn on NPR on the radio driving to the airport, and it was a little snapshot about talking to 3, 20, and 30-somethings about why they don't spend time in the environment. And I thought, well, this is synchronistic, you know, I'm on the way to talk about this. And one of them said, I have a screensaver of the environment.
You got it saved, right?
Right. The next one said, yeah, my parents took me camping once and we stayed in the car. And the third one said, it's people who are destroying the environment, so the less we go, the better the environment will be. Do we have an issue? So anyway, I just want to raise your awareness, our care, and somehow transferring to our kids and our kids' kids, bring them into the parks, bring them out into nature, to at least have that basis of value, because there's no generational